Welcome back. In this segment, we're going to talk about establishing a writing routine. Hopefully, in your small groups, you've already talked about some routines that you've established in your lifetime or in your professional career. And we'll just add on to this by talking about some ways that you can establish and support your writing routine. So let's take a minute and think about this question. What are some important considerations in establishing a new routine? Whether it be a new writing routine or a new exercise regimen or some kind of nutritional routine that you want to do. What are some important considerations, some things you need to think about as you do this or before you do this? Whenever I'm trying to build a new routine or a new habit, one of the things I like to think about is why I'm doing it. Why is it important? Why is it essential? Why am I getting up earlier? Why staying out later or staying at work later or devoting this amount of time to something? What's driving that? Because if I can define why and clearly define why, when the going gets tough, and when I don't want to do it and I don't have any motivation to do it, I can go back mentally and pull out that why. I'm doing it for this reason. I'm doing it for this purpose. And a lot of times that will be enough to get me through, to get me back on track. You might want to consider how your new routine will affect the rest of your life. So we only have 24 hours in a day, and if you're going to take 1 hour every day and write, that's 1 hour that you're not doing something else. So where's that time coming from? What things are you not going to do because you're now going to start writing an hour every day or an hour 3 days a week or an afternoon every week? So think about those considerations as we talk about this establishing a writing routine. I love this quote from Ann Tyler. She writes, "If I waited until I felt like writing, I'd never write at all." How true. If I only did things when I really wanted to, I wouldn't have that much accomplished sometimes. Because in the moment, I'm very excited about it. I really want to do it, and then something else comes up, or fear gets in the way. So we don't want to wait until we're ready, till we feel like we're ready. Sometimes we have to push forward and do it anyway, even though we're afraid, or even though we're afraid of failure, or even though we don't think anyone's going to read it, or even if we don't think it's going to be any good. Sometimes we just need to push forward and start. And starting is the important part. So let's look at some things to take into consideration when we're establishing a new routine. Some of the research says that if you batch things, if you say, okay, I'm just going to work for 15 minutes, I really don't have any focus, I really don't want to do this, but I'm going to set my stopwatch on my phone, or I'm going to set an alarm, and I'm going to work straight for 15 minutes without doing anything else. No Facebook, no internet, no Googling, no weather report, no anything for 15 minutes, or 20 minutes, or 30 minutes, or an hour, or however long it is. But just commit to that small period of time. Another one is think about your environment. Do you have the right lighting? Do you have the right equipment? Do you have a sticky key on your keyboard? Do you have your coffee or your tea or some water? Is it the right temperature for writing? And is it a place where you're comfortable? Or have you gotten rid of all the distractions that could be there? So think about the environment where you want to work. Believe it or not, I do very good work in a very crowded space, a restaurant, a cafe. Somehow, the more crowded and noisy a place is, the better off I am in working. I don't understand that about myself. But it's somehow that quiets my mind, and the distractions aren't there. That would be if I were in an empty room, I would find a million other things to do. So think about your environment and how your environment can affect the support or the establishment of that routine. Organize. Organize yourself so that you're ready. So if I know that tomorrow I'm going to be writing all afternoon, then tonight when I have the motivation, perhaps, and I know I might not have it tomorrow, I'm going to get my computer ready. I'm going to make sure it's charged. I'm going to get my notes, put them with the computer, get my pencils or my notepads or whatever I need to be successful, and put them there so that it's organized. If I've got notes, I want to make sure that they're all in order. I usually like to use a binder. I'll put everything in the binder. I'll use tabs and put everything in there so I don't have to have a million items, that I can just travel light. And if I do need to go to a cafe and work, I can do that. I'm organized. I've got everything I need, so there are no excuses for not following through on my goal. Next, the notes. I mentioned that. Some people really want to write out all their notes in advance so they don't have to have all this original research. I like to work from the cloud and keep everything there, but I also like to take pretty rigorous notes and pages upon pages of notes. We talked about notes in our last session on scope of work and timeline, and some thoughts on different note-taking strategies and how to be successful. So think through your notes and how you want to have them organized and ready to go as you're establishing this routine. What you don't want to do is get up and say, today I'm writing for 3 hours. And you start writing and you're like, oh, I need to make some notes. So instead of actually writing, you're having to go backwards to work on something you should have already done. Or I need to make a new outline, or whatever it might be. So you want to be prepared. Be ready to take a break. Part of that batching success is I'll work 15 minutes, then I'll take 5 minutes and do something completely different. And then I'll work for 15 more minutes or 20 minutes, and then I'll take another 5-minute break. Be sure that you're allowing yourself some breaks throughout. Be sure you've got something to eat. You don't necessarily want to eat a lot of junk food or candy bars or things that are necessarily not good for your body. You want to eat something to sustain you, and you want to plan ahead. There's nothing like you have this dedicated time to sit down and write, and you sit down, your stomach growls, and you're, I need to get something to eat. So the 2 hours you were going to work are now an hour because you had to go and make some food to eat or go and get some food and eat it. So you want to be prepared with snacks or whatever you need to be successful, or plan ahead and eat just before your routine, but probably not a very carbohydrate or starchy filled meal so that you're not napping when you're actually supposed to be writing. Set limits for yourself. Say, I want to write 6 paragraphs, or I want to write 2 pages, or I want to write 1,000 words, or I want to write a first draft of my introduction, or I want to write the methods section. Whatever it is, I'm going to spend today working on these 3 tables. I'm going to take this time and do this. So set some limits around yourself, and when you hit that limit, stop. Maybe your table takes 30 minutes and you're done. If that was your goal for today, stop. You'll thank yourself later. You'll have a little bit of free time, a little bit of liberty. That'll make a positive reinforcement for you and increase the likelihood that you'll come back to this tomorrow and your routine will be successful. Next, you want to have boundaries. Boundaries with yourself and those around you. So you turn off the phone. Take your cell phone and don't even put it on vibrate. Turn it completely off. Put a sign on your door that says, do not disturb. I'm working. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your colleagues, tell your assistant, tell your coordinators, whomever are around you, I'm working, I need to work, this is my established time for working. It's an appointment to write, and that's what I need to do without any distractions. You can also turn off the email on your computer so it's not popping up if you're writing at a computer. You can actually use a program, there's a couple of apps that will do this if you're using like an iPad or something like that to write with, that will actually block out all of those things for a certain period of time to where you're not getting out any extra stuff, and you actually can't break out of it yourself and decide, oh, I want to go look at the news and see what's happening in the world right now. You're stuck in your writing environment. So establish those boundaries with yourself and with those around you. And part of that is that batching thing. Okay, I really want to follow the news today. I really want to, follow the soccer match or whatever's going on. But I'm not. I'm going to take 15 minutes and work, and then I'll take a 5-minute break and look at the news or look at the scores or whatever it might be. So boundaries with yourself and with those around you. And then lastly, forgiveness. If you missed today, if for whatever reason you don't accomplish your goals, or you don't make it that 15 minutes, or you don't make it at all today because something else came up, or you had an opportunity to do something that you really have been wanting to do or needing to do, don't give yourself a hard time. Don't beat yourself up about it. Forgive yourself as appropriate, right? I mean, obviously there are times when willingly don't want to do it and we make lots of excuses. Acknowledge those too. But be ready to forgive yourself, because part of that whole holding a grudge against yourself, it really keeps you from establishing that routine. So be ready to forgive yourself and even those around you when they're breaking your boundaries. So we talked a little bit about the environment. What are some things you want to focus on? Lighting. Do you like bright lights? Do you like dim lights? Do you like natural sunlight coming in? What works and what's going to be effective for you? You may need to experiment with this and see what's most effective. What about distractions? I mentioned that I like lots of distractions. The more things that are going on around me, the more noise, the more I can focus. If it's perfectly quiet and empty and deserted, I can't focus. So what level of distraction works for you? Some people really like to work to music or loud music or cacophonous music. What's going to work for you? It goes back to that noise level. Do you need the sounds of a babbling brook in the background or rain falling? That would make me fall asleep. But what kind of noise levels? I used to write when I couldn't go to a cafe and write. If I were, somewhere that I had to write, like a hotel room or something, I would put on white noise or pink noise or brown noise. You can easily find that on your computer and play that in the background as you're working, if that's helpful to you. So what level of noise and what kind of noise? And then lastly, clutter. When I'm working, I like to clear the whole deck. The desk is empty. One of my things, and this is, you're probably learning way too much information about me. One of my things, I like to get the cleaner and clean my desk and clean the monitor and clean everything. I like everything clean and cleared off. I want nothing there that will distract me. I want me and the computer and the mouse and the keyboard and my notes, and that's it. I like a clean slate with no clutter. Maybe that's not you. Maybe you need little things to play with or little things to occupy your time sometimes. Some people like to think with something in their hand like this, or a pencil in your hand. So what types of things help you, are part of your process? The process is different for everyone. We can't, I can't tell you, oh, you got to do it my way because my way is the right way. Some people need different things to help them in their environment. When we look at timing, some people like to work in the middle of the night. Some people are night owls, right? They like to stay up very late and work. Some people like to get up very early in the morning and work. Some people work best before lunch. Some people work best after lunch. Different people have different times when they work. So figure out what's going to work with you. As you're setting this routine, experiment with different times of day and how productive you are. Conduct a little research on yourself to figure out your own rhythm. You can look at research on circadian rhythms and when we're most effective. And I buy that to a certain extent, but everyone is a little bit different and is built a little bit differently. So experiment on yourself and figure out what's going to work for you in terms of time. Let's also talk about self-care. So when we're writing, we don't want to ignore the entire world and let it just fall away. We want to be sure that we're taking care of the things that we need to do, including taking care of ourselves. So one thing is eye strain. You want to be wary of that. If you spend so much time looking at a computer, it can actually hurt your eyes, give you a headache, cause eye strain. So at least once an hour, you want to spend some time looking away, looking at the wall, looking at something else, getting up, walking around, blinking your eyes a little bit more so that your focus is changing a bit so that you don't have eye strain. You also want to think about exercise. Writing is pretty sedentary, sitting down. Some people write standing up, and that's possible. It's definitely not the norm. Writing seems to be much more sedentary. You're at least tied to whatever you're using to write with. So think about getting in some exercise either before or after your writing session to really kind of get your blood flowing, your heart pumping, those kinds of things. You want to be sure you're taking breaks just so that you have a change in your focus. Do short and long. Maybe a long break and then follow that up with a short working period, and then switch it around and do a short break with a long working period. Take different varying breaks. Be sure you're eating and that you're eating things that are nutritious and filling for your body and will sustain you. We talked about forgiveness and being willing to forgive yourself and those around you. You also want to do some stretching perhaps. Take advantage of doing some chair stretches. You can easily Google that to find out what some good chair stretches might be. Just to kind of help your body so you don't get contorted. Sitting all day can wreck your back or your hips or your feet. Be sure that you're in a good position, that you're not hurting yourself while you're working. Some things that might help you organize. You want to keep your notes nearby. I like to keep them open right beside me with my outline right on top so I can work right through my process. Some people like their original research with them. You might want your data notebook if you've collected data. Those kinds of things could be helpful. Some people use online organization. They don't really have that paper issue. I kind of have a hybrid of both. I like some things on paper and lots of things online, easily available at my fingertips. I'm constantly going and pulling up data or pulling out an article or research that I'm looking at, or guidelines, or all of those pieces. In the guide for this session, there's some mention of some online organization tools that could be helpful. And then lastly, you want to be sure you're backing up your work. I'm sure we could all tell a horror story about a time when we didn't save, or the computer crashed, or we lost everything. You don't want that to happen with your scholarly writing. Back it up, not only to your hard drive, but also save a copy in the cloud and make sure that it's a safe place in the cloud. And we've got some resources in the guide for you to help you with determining where you want to back your work up. Okay, so getting in a routine, if you've got some suggestions or ideas on getting in a routine, let me know. I can add them. I need more stuff and I want more ideas. So email me or reach out to your group leader and facilitator, let them know, and we can get those added. Between now and then, good luck with your publication.